What is up, guys, and welcome to Season 2 of The Photo Finish, Scot Radio's home for motorsports in general and NASCAR in particular. I'm your host, Ben Schneider, joined tonight not by Matt Cole. He had other commitments tonight, but he's hopefully going to be with us here on our new time slot, Monday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central. But instead, for the third time this year, we have Chase Draus from The End.
Hey, welcome. Wait, no, that's not it. Sorry, been a long day. Gotten 3 hours of sleep.
It has been a long day. I've been up since 6 a.m., so
yep,
I understand.
So
all right,
what are we going to do when we're that tired? Talk about racing.
Yes.
All right, let's go.
Well, I'm going to be completely honest with you guys. We're just going to try to kind of wing it here because there was a lot of miscommunication. We really just found out that shows were starting up again today about 7 hours ago. So this has been
If you want to hear the smack talk about this, tune in to the end, because Liam and I will be doing that in plentiful amounts.
Yes, that's Wednesday nights.
Yep,
what
and
time?
Wednesday nights, we're going to go from 9 to 10, or no, it's going to be 8 to 9, something like that. I don't know. We'll figure it out. Either way, communication has been great. All right.
Yeah.
But
we do have a rundown put together, and it has been almost 2 months since we've been on the air, so a lot of news is broken, but if you've been following along, you probably know most of it anyway. So we'll talk about some of the news that's broken recently, and specifically I want to start off with the Las Vegas Motor Speedway test of the new rules package that'll be used in 22 of the 36 races for the Monster Energy NASCAR Cup Series in 2019. Now, this is a package that has caused a lot of polarization in the NASCAR community from fans, drivers, and teams, and everybody, people in the media. And the thing with this package is they're using restrictor plates at mile-and-a-half tracks, which is something that's never been done before. And the idea is to create closer, more exciting, more entertaining racing to watch. But the problem is, by doing that, they're being forced to slow these Gen 6 cars down. And what we're seeing now, what we saw during the test, is that the Xfinity Series cars, the lower-level series, are actually faster right now than the Cup Series cars. And the Cup Series cars are pretty much able to run wide open on a mile-and-a-half, which has pretty much never been the case. So, Chase, I want to ask you, what does it say that the top-level series cars are actually slower than a series that's meant to develop drivers for that top series?
I think that it's showing that NASCAR needs to let go of a lot of its pride, because ultimately the thing I'm taking sports social right now, and the thing I've really kind of picked up is that ultimately, as much as we love sports, sports is a business, and if you treat your workers like crap, you're going to get a lot of pushback. And if you get, who's to say that most of these racers with these changes aren't going to go somewhere else? Think about it. Like, honestly, any of these racers could go to any other series, in the world. So ultimately, you got to listen to the racers here, because ultimately they're the ones in the cars who have, doing how many races a year. A lot of these guys have been doing it for, numerous amount of years. Some guys have been doing it for 30, 40 years. Jimmy Johnson has been, driving, NASCAR since he was 22, 23. Yep. You got to trust, the people who are, boots on the ground every day. Their input is just as valuable as the rich exec who is telling you, yeah, I don't think this is a great idea. Or, oh, yeah, no, that's a brilliant idea.
Well, speaking of input, there actually has been some reaction from the drivers, and Kyle Busch was the one who got the most notable press from his comments, and so I want to play the clip here of what he had to say after the Las Vegas test, so here it is.
Well, we've taken the driver skill away from the drivers in this package. Anybody can go out there and run around there and go wide open. You could probably do it.
So what does that say? If anybody could go out there and run wide open, and Kyle Busch is telling the people in the media, yeah, you could probably do it. I know it's the top level of motorsport in America, but you could go ahead and do it. What does that say?
It says that they need to get their act together. As I said, the previous comment still stands, because Kyle Busch,
Kyle Busch is a NASCAR champion. He's won
right now. He's
nearly
probably
200 races across the top 3 series.
Arguably, right now, he's the face of the company. He's the face that runs the place. Ultimately, if your top driver is saying there needs to be a change and this change is not the right one, you got to take that into consideration, because ultimately, he could probably afford to take some of the slack. He could afford to take some of those fines. However, if you take some no-name drivers, some kid who just got on the series, he's not going to be able to make comments like that and get away with it. So, I mean, props to him for being, gutsy enough to actually, take that bullet for the drivers. But at the same time, if the top guy is saying it, then most likely something's wrong. So,
yeah. Well, NASCAR's Vice President for Innovation and Racing Development, John Prost, actually came out and reacted to Kyle Busch's comments, and he said, quote, these drivers, some are going to love it, some are going to hate it, no matter what we race. I was just encouraging fans who are on the fence to give it a try. I think they're going to be pleasantly surprised at what they see on the racetrack. For the drivers we know who don't like it, they are very good at what they do, and they get paid a really good chunk of money to do things that take a lot of talent. If they want to spout off about this racing not needing a whole lot of talent, then eventually that will hook them in the pocketbook too. They should be careful.
Or maybe you should just listen. Oh my god! Like, the comment still stands. You gotta. Oh my word! At this point, NASCAR is begging to be shut down. Like, I hate it because honestly, I grew up watching NASCAR races with my dad. That was one of the biggest bonding experiences I had, and one of my favorite moments ever was watching Kyle Busch and I think it was his brother, or Kurt Busch, Kurt and Kyle. They were going at it for the first race. I forget how long ago it was, and just the commentary cut out, and it was literally just those two going at it. Just the pure energy was palpable. Like, honestly, like, that was one of the most fantastic NASCAR moments of all time for me. And for me, it put Kyle Busch at a different level. Like, that was like the moment where he's like, all right, he's one of the elite drivers you got. So if we're keeping him in that elite category, with names like Jimmy Johnson, Joey Logano, I think he's definitely pushing that, elite high-tier driver range, and honestly,
Well, of course, Busch has been around longer than Logano,
so I mean, but you get the
I get
point.
What you're saying, yeah.
If one of your elite drivers is saying it's getting to the point where it's not even a challenge and it's, going to damage the product, you got to take notice. And, it's like, oh, well, some of them are going to hate it. Some of them are going to like it. Honestly, it's a change we feel like we need to make. Literally, I hate to bring video games up to Battlefield 5 did the exact same thing. Oh, if you don't like it, don't buy it. Guess what? Their sales plummeted. Like, they were expected to make, their sell roughly around 1 million copies the first week. They sold half that, if even. And most of them, like, right now, GameStop, is basically giving them away along with Fallout 76. What's that say?
Yeah. Well, and the don't watch argument is something that I'll admit I fell into when I was younger, but now that I'm older and understand how logic and reasoning works, it's really just one of the lamest arguments you can put forward.
It just
and that's why if you're saying, hey, if you don't like it, don't watch it, the fans that don't like it
aren't going to watch it.
Yeah.
And guess what? Those are going to be the ones who are giving you money.
And you wonder why the ratings are at 15-year lows and 20-year lows. But yeah, like, shouldn't the sanctioning body, like, this is a brand new package, shouldn't they be listening to what the drivers have to say? And
I mean,
if they're criticizing it, then maybe we need to tweak it, and that's something that NASCAR needs to look at. But instead they're saying, nah, we're just going to hit you in the pocketbook and give you a fine.
It's actions like these that show NASCAR is so set in its ways. It's literally like Toys R Us. They refuse to change with the times. Toys R Us had a potential deal with Amazon where they would supply all of their toys. It would have been an Amazon pickup. They said no because they didn't believe in the power of the internet. Look what happened. We got this generation of faster cars coming in. More technologically advanced, faster, able to hug turns better. All these advancements, but yet you're going for something that's slower, not necessarily as, it's just like it's easier. We're at the level now where, you kidding me? Drivers are able to pull off like insane stunts. You kidding me? Like, we have drivers who are, going off ramps and landing it, in like, these like elite, like
different forms of motorsports. Like I get that.
They are making these, changes, and they're changing with the times. Like, and it's entertaining. And like, I seriously, like, every time I see it on TV, I'm like, you know what? I'm gonna at least give it, a good 30 minutes of my time because honestly, it's entertaining.
Supercross is definitely on the rise.
I mean,
they've got a new TV deal with NBC and everything.
And on top of that, you look at Formula One, where it's like,
cars are different every year, technology's different every year.
They always are trying to push the edge. They're like, all right, how can we make this better? Innovation. That's the only thing that can save NASCAR right now is innovation. What can we do that no one else has done already? And so far, taking a step back, okay, we're going to be slower. You kidding me? Get your head out of your rear, NASCAR.
Yeah, well, this isn't unprecedented. I still remember when the Gen 6 car debuted in 2013, Denny Hamlin made some comments after the first couple races saying he didn't like how the Gen 6 car drove. He thought it was more difficult to have that close, exciting racing that the Gen 4 and even to a certain extent the Gen 5 cars had, and NASCAR did the same thing. They gave him a fine.
And that also kind of shows, okay, if our drivers are going to be outspoken, we're going to punish them for that? It's like, and it's not even like necessarily like, oh yeah, the NASCAR, president is a, bleeping idiot. It's literally just like, I don't like the way these cars are driving. I feel like it tampers with the quality of racing. It's constructive criticism. And it's something that everyone has to take at one point or another. And the fact that NASCAR is refusing to take that from the people who are making them money just honestly shows that, they're going to die out. And it's sad. Because honestly, NASCAR, NASCAR fans are some of the most loyal fans in the world. However, it's still possible to lose them. So honestly, they got changed up.
Yeah.
Really
this package reminds me of the playoffs in a lot of ways. I think if you look at the Homestead races the last few years, they've been exciting, they've been entertaining, they've been edge of your seat. Who's going to take the championship? But there's something about a Final Four. It only comes down to the final race. The first 35 races are thrown out at that point, and it's just whoever finishes best in the last race. Like, that seems artificial when you think about motor racing in general and across all of their series. And I think this package is the same way. Yes, the racing might be closer, it might look more exciting. We might see closer battles, closer finishes, but you're going to have that sense of something's missing there.
To be very honest, if you're looking for the Final Four moment, here's what you do. You have 2 races, max amount of drivers in each. Whoever finishes in the top half, make it on to the next race. And then the next race, same thing happens, top half. And then you progressively cut it down to you only got, the top 16. There you go. There's your Final Four moment. Because guess what? The best drivers make it. And, I mean, I literally came up with that on the spot. But no, you want that Final Four moment, yes. That's how you do it. It's not,
people talk about, the 2007 Patriots, going undefeated, and then they lose in the Super Bowl. Well, a driver can win the first 35 races. But I missed the part in 2007 when the Patriots and Giants were playing the Super Bowl and the other 30 NFL teams were out there running practice drills. Like, it's apples and oranges. You've got 36 other drivers on the track while these 4 drivers are fighting for a championship, because that's how racing works. It's not just 4 cars, it's 40 cars every race.
Yeah. They got to change up the playoff system, because the Chase Series...
You abolish the playoff system, but...
Okay, the Chase Series worked. Like when it first happened, I thought it was okay when I was, a little kid. Obviously, now that might change. I haven't really put a whole lot of thought into it because, honestly, I want to leave the childhood alone.
Well,
it's already ruined.
Well, frankly, I'll take the Chase. I'll take the 2004 to 2013 Chase over what we have today.
But
I'll take... You know what? Formula One actually was going to do this. They had a medal system that they were going to invoke in 2009, where Bernie Ecclestone, the chief of Formula One, was upset in 2008 that Felipe Massa won more races than Lewis Hamilton, but Massa won the final race in Brazil. Hamilton only finished 5th in the final race, but Hamilton still won the championship. I think Bernie thought that because Massa had won more races, he deserved to be the champion. So what he decided to do, and this was actually going to be implemented and was quickly shot down, thankfully, but it was this medal system. We're scrapping the point system entirely, and by the end of the season, we're just going to track whoever has the most first-place finishes, and they're going to be the champion. And as much as I don't like that, quite frankly, I'll take that over this Final Four where a driver can BS his way to the championship and then get lucky at Homestead after the other 3 championship contenders crash out.
Yep.
And come across the line in 25th, 3 laps down, and win the title. Which, again, would take a perfect storm of events for it to take place, but it's theoretically possible.
I remember the one race that I actually was watching with my dad this past year, and literally, I'm just like, oh, yeah, no, literally...
That Xfinity race, right?
Yep, the Xfinity race, literally, where we're just like, oh, yeah, no, these top 3 guys are in first place. The top 3 spots is going to be really intense. 7 out of the top 10 people wrecked and completely blew apart everything. And it's just like, okay, so some idiot decided to crash, took out those cars, and yet they have to be punished because of something that they had no control over. That is foolishness to me.
I love when drivers say when they win these races at Martinsville, Texas, and Phoenix, they're like, yeah, we're going to Homestead. And I think to myself, the starting parks are also going to Homestead. The guys running 20th are also going to Homestead. You're just going to Homestead with a chance to win a championship. You were going to go to Homestead anyway, regardless of whether or not you... So, it's just the irony's too good there. But
again, foolishness.
Absolutely.
It's the downfall of the rednecks at NASCAR. Get your head out of your rear, NASCAR. I know he's only running a small YouTube channel and it's at college radio, but I'm telling you.
Well, I'm far from the only one. Yes. Yeah. But yeah, so going back to the package real quick, because there's a lot of drafting involved here, and we've seen drafting at this test, and obviously we won't get a real feel of how this package works until we actually see a real race and real competition. But this, to me, could have a big effect on group qualifying because, of course, if you followed NASCAR back in the day, you know that every car would go out, run 1 or 2 laps, and whoever had the best time would get the best starting position. Now they've gone to a format for qualifying, which they've had for about 5 years now, which is kind of like how Formula One does it. They have everybody go out, then they take the top 24 cars, go to round 2, and then the top 12 fight for the pole in round 3. And so it's this elimination style where you can run as many laps as you can, and your best lap time from the round stands, and that's what you go off of. But all the cars are out on the track at the same time. And now if you have the ability to draft, and that gives you a straight line speed advantage and everything, cars are going to go out together, and that's going to affect the starting grids.
It's going to add something where it's going to make it a lot more challenging to figure it out. And honestly, it could become a lot more about teams.
I miss single-car qualifying because as somebody who's a fan of the underdogs, somebody who knows every name that's out on the grid, some of those teams that are running 30th every week on a shoestring budget, doing the best they can, when you watch qualifying on TV, every car gets some TV time because of a single-car qualifying. Yeah. And so that's
how I found Joey Logano.
Yeah, that's your opportunity for your sponsors, your young drivers, your lesser-funded drivers to get their TV time.
Make money.
Yeah, absolutely. And now that you've taken that away, we have group qualifying now. It's still just really the big drivers that are getting focused on. And so that one moment that those small teams had is gone now. And I think that there are a lot of things that NASCAR can learn from Formula One. Formula One can learn from NASCAR, vice versa, across any other series you want to throw in there. But there are certain things that certain series have that I really think should just stay the same. That's how they've done it. That's how their formats work.
Just because it's new doesn't mean it's best.
Yeah, and just because it works over in F1 doesn't mean it works over in NASCAR.
And I mean, I feel like right now Formula One is trying to or NASCAR is trying to copycat Formula One because they think, oh, it works in Europe, it'll work here. Not necessarily the case. So I'm still a firm believer in this. NASCAR, if you really want to change things up, do a street race. Like, shut down, like the city of Boston or, New York City or something like that. Do a race there. I know we didn't talk about this. I just really want to see it happen.
I think a lot of fans want to see a street race. You got Formula E in New York now. You almost had IndyCar come to Boston. Of course, that was a disaster with the planning, and that fell through. But they went to Baltimore. The race in Long Beach is world famous now.
It's just one of those things where it's like, at this rate, you've done a lot of what, has worked in the past. However, you're getting a new generation of racing fans. They don't exactly know the real qualification of everything. They don't know the whole technical prowess because, honestly, this generation has a short attention span. However, if you introduce something new, a new concept that they have never seen before with a lot of names that they will probably know, it's going to change a lot. And honestly, you want to get coverage on ESPN, do something they haven't seen before. You got to do a street race. You got to use the new cars. You got to something. Because ultimately, if you keep, just like, oh, it's going to be more strategic racing. Yeah, honestly, people love playing chess. However, not a lot of people like watching people play chess. So, as much as I hate to say it, if NASCAR keeps on, well, actually, I've said it multiple times already, so I'm not really that, sad to say it, but NASCAR keeps on the track they're going, they're not going to be able to, do a whole lot.
Well, yeah, and Kyle Busch's comments actually went on, and he literally mentioned a chess match. That's what this racing is going to become.
And I mean, yeah, no, chess is fun to play. Nothing wrong with that. And honestly, there are some people who genuinely like to watch a good game of chess. However, that's not what the public needs, and that's not what your business needs. And I mean, I hate to be really focusing on the sake of the business, because ultimately NASCAR, they've done a great job connecting with fans. You know, like in terms of like, you know, like the drivers going out, interacting with fans and stuff. Like, you know, I volunteered at the racetrack in New Hampshire. I ran into a whole bunch of guys on, you know, the pit crew who were willing to talk with me, you know, were willing to take pictures, all of that. And, you know, things like that, you got the people aspect down. You got the personalities. Now you got to, you know, NASCAR, you know, the execs got to do their part in getting their act together to make the best product possible.
All right, so let's move on now. This was actually just announced today, breaking news, and I think a lot of fans are very happy about it. It's something that they've been asking for a long time. There are new rules violation regulations, and NASCAR is going to start taking the win away for drivers who fail post-race inspection, and this is a move that has been wanted by fans and media for such a long time.
They finally did something right. Ultimately, the consequences of cheating should be that, you know what, you feel it. Because honestly, right now, it's like, oh, you might get like a couple points taken away, and you might get fined. But for these bigger racers, it's like, oh yeah, no, take the money.
It's a slap on the wrist.
It literally is a slap on the wrist. You know, like with WWE, you know, they have the 3 strikes policy with the drug policy. You know, first time it's, you know, first time offense, month off. Second time, 60 days. Third time, you're out. So honestly, they've cut down a lot on the use of you know, illegal drugs. And you know, they've been superstar, you know, wrestlers or superstars, however you want to call it, who, you know, ultimately been kicked out because of it.
Yep. And well, I think this is going to cut down on encumbered finishes, and
it's going to cut down on cheating. Like literally, that's, you know, that's a whole big thing with the NFL right now. Honestly, it's really easy, you know, like, you know, a refs miss a blown call or, you know, to cheat. It's like, you got to make it hard for people to cheat. Like, you know, you got to be creative with your cheating. Like, I'm sorry. I mean, I'm not encouraging cheating, but honestly, if you're going to do it, at least try to hide it. Because, I mean, a lot of these teams aren't even trying to hide it.
Yeah. Well, I think the most obvious example that I can think of is in pro cycling. And, you know, Lance Armstrong won, I'd use that air quotes, won 7 straight Tour de France's. And, of course, the
they figured out,
news coming out,
yes, drugs.
And what happened to all of his yellow jackets.
Bye.
Of course. You cheat, you don't get to take you don't get to keep the win.
Same
you take the
thing
win
with,
away.
Like, do you remember that went around on Facebook for a while where like it was the Special Olympics. They had the Spanish basketball team, and they actually figured out that only 3 or 4 of them actually were special needs on the team. So literally, it was a bunch of average guys going up against a bunch of special. And literally, they got the medal taken away, and they got banned from the sport completely. They got blacklisted.
Yeah. I remember that. That was the Paralympics, and
I think it was France or something. I don't know. But
I thought it was Spain. But
I know the Spanish team did it.
Yeah.
But I think it was the Paralympics were in France. Anyway, that's besides the point.
Yeah.
There has to be consequences for cheating. You just can't, you know, the slap on the wrist. You know what? First strike, slap on the wrist. You know, and honestly, that's what it's going to be. You lose the win, and you get a fine. Second time, honestly, I think they should take away, you know, potentially suspend him for multiple races. And then, you know, honestly, third strike, guess what? You lose your season. Because ultimately, if you're going to continue to cheat and ruin the quality of racers, not only for the other racers, but for the fans, because you want to make it faster and you want to, you know, get more money in a championship, you got to pay the consequences.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, I agree. So here's how this is pretty much going to work. In the past, we've seen it take until Wednesday until we find out that these victories were encumbered or an L1 penalty or here's the fine and everything. The days of that sounds like are pretty much going to be over. NASCAR is going to take the top 2 finishers and 1 random car, which honestly in most cases will probably be the 3rd place finishing car.
Or at least someone in the top 10.
Yeah. And they will be inspected at the track, and we should know within 90 minutes or so if the victory and everything stands.
Honestly, as soon as the car gets to the garage, inspect it.
And
that's how it needs to be.
Right. And if the winning car fails, 2nd place inherits the points, the money, and the win. And if that guy fails, then it goes for next, and so on and so forth until you find a legal car.
Watch, literally, there's just be like some guy who like wrecked and got like, you know, 30th place, just all of a sudden gets all the.
Well, Texas this year, all 3 cars that they took. I mean, Harvick obviously got the most attention because he won the race, but all 3 cars that they took back to R&D failed.
It kills me. It genuinely kills me how people can just be like so stupid. Like, you know, the fact if you're gonna win, your car's gonna get inspected. So it's just like, why not just go in the first place and just be, you know, like, obviously if there's something that goes wrong mid-race where it's like, oh, hey, you know, we had this incident that happened where, you know, the car, you know, like there was like some sort of damage
Well,
done.
of course, if there's damage, then there's nothing
like,
you can do.
You know, and honestly, I'm not sure exactly if it would, you know, enhance the quality of the car. But if there's damage to the car, there's damage to the car. However, if it's like, you know, clearly cheating, then obviously go through with the things I said. But if it's just damages, then it's like, all right, well, you know, this is wrong and this is wrong. You know, just go and like, all right, you got a warning. And I feel like that's, you know, I kind of wish, like, do you have the rule actually in front of you, like, you know, what it states, like how it's going to work out, or is it just kind of like rumored, or like just like something?
Well, I'm sure they'll,
out?
yeah, I'm sure they might tweak it, but it's basically going to, yeah, basically what I said.
Okay. Yeah, because, I mean, like, depending on how it's written, it could leave a lot of room for interpretation, which could be either a really good thing or a really bad thing. So, yeah, no, I'd have to see the rule before it's actually fully written, before I actually, you know, like, confirm whatever I just said. But, you know, I still think it's a really good step in the right direction. And, I mean, again, integrity of the sport. You know, that's the most important thing. So.
All right, well, Speed Weeks kicked off last week with the 24 Hours of Daytona, and Chase, I know you don't know as much about IMSA and sports car racing, so I'll try to carry it here as much as I can.
Yeah, you're going to have to.
Well, that's all right. So, Fernando Alonso does it again. He wins a torrential Rolex 24 Hours of Daytona with Wayne Taylor Racing and his teammates Jordan Taylor, Kamui Kobayashi,
honestly, that
and
last
Ringer
lap
Van
was
Zen.
rigged, man. I'm not sure what it was clearly rigged. That last lap. English. I can't do it. Okay, I killed the joke. Continue.
No, you're fine. But Alonso drove one of the most brilliant races I've ever seen in sports car racing for a driver who is still being introduced to it. I think this was only his 7th sports car race. He did Daytona last year. He has 5 WEC races under his belt. But he is now a 24 Hours of Le Mans winner and 24 Hours of Daytona winner. Done them both in a 12-month period. Like Le Mans, he had a brilliant overnight stint. Was in the car as the clock was winding down. Rain was getting even more torrential. And Felipe Nasser goes wide. Alonso inherits the lead. They finally throw the red flag because there's so much standing water out on the track. It's getting ridiculous. And the race never restarts. And that's your winning team.
That's actually pretty awesome. I'm not going to lie. Like, that's just... I mean, obviously it sucks that, you know, we couldn't actually gotten that, you know, last, you know, leg in. However, you know, to race for 24 hours straight, you know, like, I can barely, like, you know, I get tired after driving 2 hours. Like, I'm just like, all right, I need to get up and move or something. Or I need, like, a shot of, like, you know, espresso or something. But to 24 hours, that is intense. So, I mean, props to all the racers who did that, because honestly, I mean, that's, you know, it's kind of like the super marathon. You know, Ben and I are on the track team, and, you know, our track coach, he does, like, these 24-hour marathons, you know, for fun. And it takes a lot. And, you know, the fact that, you know, these drivers are able to do it and do it with a certain level of skill and prowess, especially under terrible conditions for racing, just really shows you how skilled these racers really are. So,
well, and I think a lot of people don't realize that Daytona is about 25 feet above sea level and 10 feet above Lake Lloyd, which is literally the giant lake that is in the infield of a track. So when all that rain comes down, you get 4 to 5 inches of rain in less than a 24-hour period, that water has nowhere to go.
Yep.
It's not going to drain off anywhere. So
once it goes, it goes.
Yep. So
yeah, I mean,
Roger Penske went on record. He's been coming to Daytona for 50 years, and he said he's never seen anything like this in this race.
I mean, again, it just goes to show, even in terrible conditions, these drivers were still able to drive with a world-class, you know, skill and, you know, have a world-class performance.
Yeah. Well, and to give you an idea of just how bad it was, pretty much as the race was winding down, at least one car per lap was either going wide or doing a half spin, running into the wall. The LMP2 winners of that class actually went into the wall, had a lot of crash damage, but they had a 4-lap lead. So
Didn't
they
really
ended up
matter.
winning the race anyway. But you know, it was so torrential that Alonso was actually calling for them to throw a yellow when he was in second. He hadn't even gotten to the lead yet, and he was already
Like, this needs
telling
to
them
stop.
this is ridiculous. Yeah.
This is also something that, I really kind of like, all right, everyone wants to race like the brilliant sports cars and stuff like that, but I'm sorry, where are just like the normal like Honda CRVs? Like, like why do we have to have races with like a whole bunch of rich and fancy cars? When you kidding me? Dude, I would be much more impressed if that guy raced that car with a mom van than, like where are those kinds of races? Because, I mean, like I feel like the rain wouldn't have been as much of a factor depending on how bad it was.
We have Forza for that.
Yeah. Dude, nothing like driving a soccer mom van at, 180 miles an hour.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but congrats to Cadillac and Wayne Taylor Racing again.
Cadillac,
Wheelan,
my team.
Wheelan Engineering Racing finishing second with Pippo Durrani, Felipe Nasser, and Eric Curran. And Team Penske's number 7 car came home third with a couple IndyCar drivers, Elio Castroneves and Alexander Rossi, along with Ricky Taylor, who's actually Jordan Taylor's brother. So they completed the overall podium. In LMP2, this class only had 4 cars, so not as much going on there, but congratulations to Dragon Speed. Pastor Maldonado, actually, part of that winning team.
Nice.
So, yeah,
For them to get a winner under their
the
belt.
guy who F1 fans made fun of for years for crashing every other weekend, he is now won at the same racetrack as Dale Earnhardt, Mario Andretti, Jeff Gordon, Jimmy Johnson.
Dude, he's like shedding his meme status. I don't know what to do. We can't make fun of him anymore. What are we going to do?
Yep, and
The racing meme community is sad.
Yep, and GT Le Mans, congrats to Ray Hall Letterman. Their 25 team ended up winning the race, but their 24 car had a very special driver. Alex Zanardi made his return to U.S. racing for BMW and Ray Hall Letterman, and although he didn't win, the car had some electrical issues. He still came back. If you don't know who Alex Zanardi is, he was an IndyCar driver in the late 90s and had a lot of success, won a couple championships, went over to race in Europe a little bit, didn't go so well, came back to race in America in kart, and in 2001 in a race in Germany, lost both of his legs, almost died, and has just ever since then continued to fight back, and he's returned to racing with the use of hand controls and even tried prosthetic legs out at times, but he's also been known for taking up a career in hand cycling, and he's won Paralympic medals now at London and Rio, and he just confirmed last weekend that he does plan on going to Tokyo in 2020, and he's in his early 50s and he's still going strong.
It just shows you the power of the human spirit. This guy could have literally blamed the world and no one would have batted an eye. Because honestly, everyone's like, yeah, no, the world gave you a really raw deal. Because, I mean, literally, you think about it. He was at the top of his class, and master of his craft. When he was in his prime he was in that elite category that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah, well, and all the lines, in the pre-race for driver autographs and everything, Zanardi had the longest lines by far. Everybody wanted to talk to him. Everybody wanted to congratulate him.
So, I mean, it just shows you the power of the human spirit where he's like, you know what? I'm not going to let this ruin my life. You know what? He won medals in hand cycling. And, dude, I'm not sure if you guys have ever seen a hand cycle. Dude, that is hard. You kidding me? Like, I can barely ride a normal bike, let alone, all right, I'm going to use my hands for controls and everything. It's like, dude, that is hard. So the fact that these guys are able to do it in, at speeds that I could, only hope to dream of using with a motorcycle, it's insane.
Yeah. By the way, if you're listening, when you're done listening to our show, go to YouTube, just type a quick search, Alex Zanardi, The Pass, and see what comes up, and I guarantee you'll be blown away.
Yep.
The move he put on at Laguna Seca in 1996
Yeah.
is absolutely amazing.
It's one of those moments where it's just like, it's the reason why we follow, auto racing. Because, I mean, yeah, there are times where races are genuinely just boring, just like the Super Bowl. Like, this Super Bowl was boring. However, moments like that makes it all worth it. Like, it doesn't matter how much talent you have, but it matters what you do with your, it matters what you do with your heart. Because ultimately, I can have all the skill in the world in auto racing. If I don't care about auto racing, guess what? I'm not going to win a championship. that's the most important thing. And also, I feel like that's kind of where, a lot of these drivers are going to really make their make a big name for themselves, is honestly just the refusal to quit in some of these races. So
Yeah, anybody who follows sports should know the story of Alex Zanardi. I think it's my all-time favorite sports story, not just in motor racing, but across all sports, what he's been able to do since his injury.
Yep.
Yep, and the final class, GT Daytona, congrats to GRT Grasser Racing Team. And NBC Sports actually had two drivers doing, or two commentators, rather, I guess you should say, doing double duty, both commentating for certain parts of a 24-hour race and then getting in the cars to race for their teams. So Townsend Bell and AJ Allmendinger, hats off to both of them. Bell's team finishing
honestly, they did a great
third
job
and
commentating that race.
Allmendinger fifth. Yeah, so NBC has this new TV deal with IMSA. They acquired IMSA, Supercross, Monster Jam, so they're going all in on motorsports right now. But I'd say they did a solid job. I think there was a little bit of too much of a NASCAR focus on this, and I guess that's just because they're at a NASCAR track. NASCAR has a big audience. You want to bring as much Dale Jr. in there as possible to have that name recognition. I like Rutledge Wood. Rutledge Wood is a great personality, but I think there was too much of cutting away. Like Rut's whole gig was basically, hey, I'm at the 24 Hours of Daytona. Here's how to not watch the race and do all the other stuff in the infield instead. And they cut away from him. They cut away from the racing to talk to him. And I mean, I get doing that. It's a 24-hour race, but
you're not gonna miss a whole lot of racing. But all right, we're gonna do like 2 minutes and talk about cornhole, or oh, hey, look at the guys, who are partying out here with, like their barbecues and stuff like that. At some point you do got to kind of get the fans involved, showing that, these people are out there. However, that shouldn't be, like you said, it shouldn't have been as much of a focus as it was taken away from the racing. So,
yeah, sure. But I give NBC probably a 7.5 out of 10 for a first broadcast. I mean, there's still some kinks to work out, but Lee Diffie was great.
When is the first broadcast ever as good as it is? I mean, seriously, you invited me on for the first broadcast of the year, so honestly, what's that say? I'm kidding. But you kidding me? I'm off the cuff, that's how my whole shtick is, that I'm off the cuff, you put me in any situation, I'll make something interesting happen. All right,
so, yeah, why not? I want to talk a little bit about the upcoming F1 season. So we have most of the launch dates set, and most of the teams will be revealing their liveries and their cars next week. The only team that still hasn't confirmed their launch date yet is Williams. I guess Williams just like being last to do everything nowadays, based on how last season went. But
ouch, that one hurt.
Yeah, or maybe they're just taking advantage of the long off season to try to make the car as good as they can. I don't know, but
I mean, they also could.
I mean, we're pulling for Kubica, with this great comeback and everything. Williams, you got to get your act together. Give him a good car. But yeah, Haas. Haas have the first launch, although it's only a livery launch so far. Online, they'll be doing that February 7th. So I guess that's this Thursday. Toro Rosso coming out February 11th. Renault the 12th. Mercedes, Red Bull, and Racing Point / Force India. Of course, that team's recently been bought out. We'll see what their new name ends up being, but those are all happening February 13th.
Wait,
McLaren on the 14th.
Who bought them out?
Lance Stroll's father and some other investors. But,
okay, did not know that.
Yeah. Yeah, so McLaren on the 14th, Ferrari on the 15th, and this is some of the biggest news of the offseason, I think. Alfa Romeo have fully taken over Sauber F1 team. So Sauber has a long history in Formula One as one of the independent teams, and then in 2005 they became a fully operated works team with BMW, and that had minimal success, so Sauber repurchased the whole team in 2010, and they've been known as Sauber ever since, up until last year, when they became the Alfa Romeo Sauber F1 team, and now Alfa Romeo has fully taken over the operation, so maybe this will pump a little bit of extra cash into the team and allow them to be a little bit more competitive.
Yeah, I mean, I'm never going to say no to better competition. I mean,
you got Kimi Räikkönen moving to Sauber for what will almost certainly be the final 2 years of his career, so you want to see him at least be somewhat competitive. He won't be as competitive as he was with Ferrari, I'm sure, but
I mean, ideal situation, he goes out, if he wins the championship this year, you know what, go out on top. That's the thing.
I think that's I think it's very wishful thinking.
It is very wishful
but,
thinking, but you know me. I'm always the hopeful one.
Yeah.
But yeah,
I do think though that the gap between Mercedes, Ferrari, and Red Bull is going to close a little bit. I don't know
that's
that.
good because good high quality racing is always going to draw in. It's always going to get attention.
Yeah. Well, there was one race last year where the podium featured somebody from outside of those three teams. That was Baku when Sergio Perez got a third place finish.
Yeah, there you go.
So those same 6 drivers, like you turn on an F1 race today, you know that 14 of the 20 drivers in all likelihood have no shot to win. It's just a fight in the midfield. And I'm not saying all 20 of them need to have a shot to win on any given Sunday, but there needs to be more than 6, and the competition needs to be closer than it's been.
And you know what? That's kind of what they're hoping to do. I mean, you know what? You sign a big driver who's, proven that he can win, and, get it to, someone who's not in, you said Ferrari, Red Bull, and
Mercedes.
It's going to make things a lot more interesting. And, again, as I said before, I'm never going to say no to better competition. So, I mean, I don't even care if it's Mercedes, Ferrari, they still win, but honestly, make it close. Like, make them work for it. It's not just the give me out, where it's like that one team who wins every year, where it's just like, oh, here, take this. I mean, you're going to win anyway, but
Wouldn't it be ironic if McLaren actually put together a competitive car this year? Of course, right as Alonso is leaving the sport.
That would be kind of humorous. I mean,
it would totally be Alonso's luck too.
And we get that one race in where it just completely blows up everything, where it's just he wins the race, one of the bigger races of the year, and that kind of just changes momentum for everyone, where it's oh hey, the top 6 racers who normally win everything didn't actually place as well as we thought they would. And then all these other racers actually place a lot better, and it just mixes everything up to the point where, honestly, no one knows who's actually going to, win that race that, when it comes. That's kind of that's the big hope with, auto racing is what? To the point where everyone is so, everyone's got that drive to win, and everyone's, close enough in skill, and, everyone's got a decent enough car to actually pull it off. That's every racing fan's dream, basically, where it's just who is actually going to be able to outsmart them, and who's going to be able to pull it off. So
all right, well, we've got 5 minutes. Do you want to bring anything up, Chase? You're the guest. I'll let you.
Way too early predictions for NASCAR. Who do you for the Monster Cup? Honestly, who do you got?
I'm gonna go with Kyle Busch. Why not? I know it's kind of a safe bet, but Ford, I think, really surprised a lot of people with how strong they were last year. I'm sure Toyota's going to come back very, very strong.
Yep.
And hopefully Chevy get, this new car figured out. They've had a year under their belts with the ZL1. Although Ford have the new Mustang that they got to figure out now, so they might get off to a slow start to the year like we saw Chevy last year. But
yeah,
I think the safe bet is Kyle Busch. I think he's hungry. He's made the Final Four each of the last 4 years, but he's still looking for that first championship since 2015. So I think he's going to be tough to beat.
I think Joe Logano's going to repeat. I mean,
I think I remember you saying that last time you were on.
I still am a firm believer that I still think he's going to repeat. I mean, and again, normally I'm kind of, hesitant with these way too early predictions. However, last year, at Scot Radio, I was on a show with Liam Carroll, who, he was on Bias Sports Talk, and not only did I call that Virginia wouldn't win the championship, I also said that a 16 seed would be the 1 seed for March Madness. I called that both of those, and Liam literally just texted me, "Dude, who are you?" And I'm like, I guess I'm that good. So I mean, hopefully my lucky streak continues for my boy Joey. So let's hope it goes well.
Yeah.
So.
Well, nobody's repeated since Jimmy had his run of 5 in a row. So
yeah.
It's a tall order to ask.
Tall order, but I think it can be done. So, all right.
Do you have any other way too early predictions?
All right. I know we kept talking about who was that female racer we kept talking about? Yeah.
Haley Deegan?
Haley. I think she's going to win a championship this year.
You think she wins the K&N championship?
I think if not, I think she's going to be pretty dang close. And I think that would be huge for the sport if she was actually able to pull that off. It would get mainstream attention, I think, because ultimately, woman in a man's world trying to, make a name for herself, and that she can stick with the boy.
Well, I don't know if you've heard, she's got a female teammate this year. There's going to be a second young lady coming up at BMR, Brittany Zamora.
Yeah. Honestly,
so,
it's proven that, auto racing is auto racing. Doesn't matter, who you are. It just matters if you can race fast. So.
Yeah, I guess I'll give my K&N title prediction then. I'll go with Derek Kraus, just because I think he kind of had a winner bust mentality last year. But he's driving for BMR, and that's the car Todd Gilliland took to a couple championships. So.
All right.
I
think that's it.
Yeah. So that's going to be it for this week's edition of the Photo Finish. And next week we'll recap the ARCA season opener, which is going on this Saturday night at Daytona. And also a lot of Speed Week stuff. We got the Clash, we've got Daytona 500 qualifying, so I'm sure it'll be a very NASCAR-heavy show next
Something
week.
You don't want to miss.
All right, so for Chase Draus, I'm Ben Schneider, and we will see you next week here on the Photo Finish.
Peace.